In 2009, the membership organization Docs for Patient Care was founded. People all around the country wanted to participate in the efforts of this group, and they wanted to join, but they were unable to do so unless they were physicians. It's for this reason that the Docs for Patient Care Foundation was created. Now, everyone can join the fight and become a member of an organization created by doctors for patients, dedicated to fighting for your healthcare freedom and preserving the doctor-patient relationship. While you're at your computer, please go to www.docs4patientcarefoundation.org. That's www.docs4patientcarefoundation.org and make a tax-deductible donation and join the fight along with us. Thank you.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
Oh, I like it. I like it. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Locked and Loaded with Roger B. But as you might notice, I am Victor Armendariz. Roger B is out today, but he will be back next week. But Locked and Loaded, we're packed. We got some things today, and I'm going to have some help from Legendary Dave as well. And we might actually have there's a couple of people that might call in today too to give us their point of view, maybe on some guns and Second Amendment.
One other thing I forgot to mention.
What's that?
As Ginger Howard from Ginger Selections, Howard Selections, a very, very well-known Republican lady, and she served as a delegate, I think 2 years or 3 years ago, and she's going to be coming in and wanted to announce the fact that she has reopened her store in downtown Atlanta.
Awesome. Good for her.
We're going to be talking, that's exactly what we're going to be talking to her about on Wednesday when she comes in. And we'll, what made up her mind to go ahead and reopen. And, and I assume that she's doing all the masks
all the recommended
stuff that you have to do. Exactly. And, I want to say one other thing. And because I've been there and done that very, very recently. My heart goes out to each and every one of you that happens to have a loved one in the hospital. And, it was quite a chilling slap in the face that you can't go in and see someone that you love. And we finally got the doctor to let us in, and only because it was very severe case, and not of corona or anything like that. This is another problem, but anyway, we did get to go in, and but we haven't been able to go back. They have the hospitals are shut down tighter than Dick's hat band, and I checked with one of my good friends that's a doctor, and he said that's the way it is everywhere. And when we went to this one hospital, got in on this past Friday night, and literally, and this is from what I understand the way they're doing it across town, and I guess in every area, but you are assigned a hospital person that escorts you to and from and make sure you walk out the door. You're also given an ID band when you go in, and you're checked, your temperature and so forth is checked. No swabbing, but the temperature is checked. So, my hat's off to the first responders. I was one many, many, many years ago, but never went through, obviously, nobody's ever gone through this before. And, my hat's off to them. They've got a job to do. I respect what they're doing, and I think I speak for the world. I'll be damn glad when this is over with.
Without a doubt.
So, anyway, I wanted to remind everybody that Ginger Howard will be in on Wednesday morning and talking about. I'll be interviewing her on Women's Wednesdays.
Women's Wednesday.
Hi,
Excellent.
Guy. No. No, it should be fun. And Ginger's an old, I don't want to say old friend. I'm old. She's just a good-looking friend. That's what I should say.
That's a better way to put it.
Yes,
She will appreciate that.
She has matured very gracefully.
Don't
anyway,
we all? No.
I wish.
Yeah,
but
right.
anyway, she's a nice lady. I'm glad that she's opening back up, and I hope carefully, and I underscore the word carefully, that more and more places open up. And I guess I was talking to a good friend of mine the other night, and I didn't realize, I'm single, and I didn't realize how much I enjoyed going out. And you get in your car, sometimes I didn't even know for sure where I was driving. I have Bidenitis, I don't know where I am all the time, but I enjoyed just getting in the car and driving over to the local steakhouse or Mexican food place.
Right.
And I loved eating out. And this is really, you might say, has shot an arrow into my balloon that has deflated.
Deflated.
Yes, and I step on it frequently at the house as I'm wanting to go someplace and get to the door and realize, hey, fool, you can't go to that restaurant tonight. You can't go any night.
I know you can't. I mean, it is funny how we do that. We were on a motorcycle ride. We do bike night. We try to do bike night every week, and we were out the last.
You mean
the last?
They've taken away nights too?
Oh, they're trying to. They're trying to.
I hadn't been out at night, and I didn't know they'd done away with nights.
I'm telling you, it's and we have to stop ourselves because we're usually like, okay, we'll stop here to eat. Well, no, we can't. So it is nice though here in Georgia that we're starting to reopen. So that's a good thing. So hopefully we'll be back to normal soon. But I got a neat little story here to start off. Well, actually, let me back up for a minute because I got a couple of things. I have a question from last hour, so from a listener. So I want to go ahead and get into that real quick. So you Locked and Loaded fans, bear with me for a second. I have a question coming in from listeners from Daytona, Florida. And the question is, if the Democrats are successful, because my theory is they want to get Biden out and get Cuomo in. If they're successful getting Cuomo in, would he want Michelle as his running mate? I'll tell you this, my gut tells me not a chance. Cuomo is never going to put somebody next to him. Just as Obama wouldn't put someone next to him that would steal his thunder, Cuomo's not going to put somebody next to him to steal his thunder. There's no way. Cuomo would pick somebody that he considers beneath him. And that's my theory. So that's the way. I don't think there's anything to worry about that. And I still maintain that she wouldn't even accept Biden's offer because I don't think Michelle wants to leave her elitist life of riches. So that's my answer there. I also wanted to point out, I can't take credit for this because it's actually the IT guy here at the station. I told you guys, don't be surprised if Hillary comes riding in on her white horse to steal the nomination from Biden. Well, the wonderful IT producer here at America's Web Radio corrected me and said, no. Hillary will come riding in on her big white broom. So picture that for a while, folks. So, okay, I don't want to ruin your Tuesday, so let's get back into some Locked and Loaded.
We don't furnish Pepto-Bismol.
That's right. No, we don't. Or Tums. So at least not until they have paid advertising. Then we'll be happy to push Rolaids, Tums, Pepto-Bismol, whatever the business may be. And by the way, if you want to sponsor or do anything like that here on America's Web Radio, contact GM at americaswebradio.com, GM at americaswebradio.com. You can also contact Victor at americaswebradio.com. And let me bring this up real quick because during the last hour, once again, great listeners down in Daytona, Florida, sent me a picture of a shirt they have created for On Point with Victor. So we may have shirts available for sale soon. So be on the lookout for that. Okay, folks, let's get into some Locked and Loaded because this is Locked and Loaded with Roger B. Although today it is with Victor Armendariz. So we got a great story. I've got a story I want to bring with you today. So, this is awesome, and some of you may know this already, especially if you're a gun supporter out there, if you're an active shooter. Let me rephrase that. Oh my gosh, am I going to start some alarms there? If you are an active gun enthusiast or an active target shooter, you may have already heard this. Leading gun manufacturers across the country are stepping up to aid in the fight against Corona. Wuhan, China, COVID-19, whatever you want to call it. I myself call it the Wuhan virus because that's where the virus originated. A lot of snowflakes will run and hide when I call it a Wuhan, so we'll call it the coronavirus or COVID-19. But anyway, leading gun manufacturers are stepping up in the aid to fight coronavirus. That's right. The evil, mean, racist, awful, white supremacist gun companies. I mean, this is what the Democrats call gun companies. So these evil companies on their own are deciding to aid and come to the aid, let's say, of fighting in this fight against coronavirus. They didn't have to be forced into this. They didn't need a Democrat tyrannical government to come and force them to start making PPE to fight this coronavirus. No, folks. Leading gun manufacturers across the country are doing it on their own. Sig Sauer, Ruger, Smith & Wesson, and Keltec are among companies that the fire industry, the firearm industry, I should say, who are making efforts to fight COVID-19 by making and supplying PPE, personal protection equipment. That's masks, that's gowns, that's face plastic masks. By the way, folks, California has banned plastic straws. I think New York banned plastic straws. I think New Jersey banned plastic straws. I think Illinois did the same. When are they going to ban the plastic mask coverings? You know, there are PPE equipment out there that not only is a face mask to cover the nose and mouth, but there's also plastic masks that cover the face. Are we now in love with plastic again? This is a question that I've got to ask. And I can't take credit for that question, folks. This was a question I believe that was from a listener in New York, or it may have been a listener from Norcross or Dunwoody. I'm not sure. But again, thanks to all you listeners, because, man, I tell you, we're fastest growing show. I think the fastest two growing shows on America's Web Radio is On Point with Victor and Locked and Loaded. I'm just going to go ahead and take credit for that now. So thanks again to all you listeners and all you new guys that are listening today and every week. You guys are awesome. We couldn't do this without you. And if you have a business, this is one of the best places. You get national advertisement, local advertisement. You can get that here on America's Web Radio and for very, very low cost. So anyway, let me get back to this. So Sig Sauer, Ruger, Smith & Wesson, Keltec are all firearm companies, and they're all stepping up, and they're making either masks, they're making gowns, they're making scrubs, they're making some kind of PPE equipment. And I mean, it's just amazing. And then the donations, they're making donations to first responders such as the police, fire departments, EMTs, healthcare professionals, and local hospitals. I mean, this is just amazing things. And this is coming. And look, folks, I'm not making this up. This is coming from Eric Poole, who's editor-in-chief at Guns and Ammo magazine. One of the things he said: the response has been growing among companies as they learn how they can shift their capabilities. That comes from Eric Poole, editor-in-chief at Gun, Ammo, and Magazine. So these companies on their own, again, folks, take note. No tyrannical government had to go and take them over. No President Trump didn't have to use the Defense Protection Act. These companies on their own, because the private sector and capitalism can do it better than any government could ever dream of doing, they've stepped up on their own to make this PPE equipment and donate it to fire departments, police departments, EMTs, hospitals, you name it. These companies, again, Sig Sauer, Ruger, Smith & Wesson, Keltec. Look, if you're going to make a gun purchase or some type of purchase in the gun with your gun enthusiasm, am I saying that right? Look, folks, voy a hablar en español because my English is just, all right, folks, I know, I'm confusing all of you. Look, if you're going out anytime soon to purchase a gun-related item, why not do it from Sig Sauer or Ruger or Smith & Wesson or Keltec or Taurus? They're all stepping up, and they're converting their factories, and they're making PPE masks, and they're making these awesome. I mean, just really stepping up, folks. It's awesome. And the fact that they're doing it on their own is a story that should be told. But I guarantee you're not going to see this on CNN. You're not going to see it on MSNBC. You're not going to see it on ABC, CBS, NBC, PBS, NPR. You're probably never going to hear this story. But you will hear it here on Locked and Loaded. And let me give you another one. Taurus. Taurus is also a gun manufacturer, which recently, this is awesome. I have to plug this because we do the show from Atlanta. We do the show from Georgia. Taurus, who recently moved to their United States manufacturing facility to Bainbridge, Georgia, has extended its domestic efforts by ordering PPP from the company's manufacturing facilities in Brazil. And then you've got the likes again of Sig Sauer, who've donated nearly 15,000 KN95 masks to over 80 different law enforcement agencies, EMS agencies, fire departments, medical facilities all over New Hampshire, Oregon, and Arkansas. That's just Taurus and Sig Sauer. So, I mean, folks, this is amazing. So, here's another thing. As the events surrounding COVID-19 began to progress, it was clear to us early on that we are going to need to procure a significant amount of PPE to ensure the health and safety of our employees. That was Tom Taylor, who's the Chief Marketing Officer and Executive President of Sig Sauer. Folks, let me read that again. The Chief Marketing Officer from Sig Sauer, one of those evil gun manufacturers, well, you know what? Let's do this. Let's take the break, and then I'll get back into this. And then I've got something awesome from another listener. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. You're listening to Locked and Loaded, America's Web Radio.
Perhaps you are struggling to cope with the disease of addiction. If not, you probably know a family member or friend that needs help in battling the cravings and the personal and professional damage done by the effects of drugs or alcohol. Get a pen and paper and be ready to write down the following. These are the issues that the trained staff at the Atlanta Healing Center address and treat every day. Their doctors and counselors with over 40 years of practice in the field of addiction can treat the suffering individual in a thoughtful, compassionate, and experienced manner and guide him or her along the path to recovery. So call 770-696-9862 and speak to a knowledgeable staff member about how you or your loved one can be helped to enjoy a better and healthier life. More information is also available on the website at www.atlantahealingcenter.com.
Victor, I don't know if you realize this or not, but to my knowledge, as far as I know, from sea to shining sea, we're the only radio station in the country that invites any and everybody to participate. They don't have to be fans of America's Web Radio, but they can go to our Facebook page, or fans of America's Web Radio, and join our Facebook page and get some of the latest information. But I hate to say it, I've been threatened by our Kung Fu master that if I don't invite everyone to tune in to America's Web Radio at 11 o'clock on Fridays and meditate with Shi Daru, our Kung Fu master. How many other radio stations have
a Kung Fu master? I'm going to say none.
None?
And I will also tell you this, David, you do not want to be on the wrong side of a Kung Fu master.
No. He has more arms coming out of his gi than, and they go so fast you can't count them. And but anyway, Shideru has become a close friend of the stations, and to have our own Kung Fu master is a real feather in the cap.
Oh, it's
and
awesome.
Then we have our doctors, and we have Dr. Nicole Sapphire. Fox News, even Fox doesn't have a Kung Fu.
I'm going to say they do not.
And, and then we also have Scott Barber, our doctor, our orthopedic surgeon. This station, and then we have Victor Armendariz.
I mean, we're all lucky to have me now.
That's what how did your dad say, send them back? And the doctor couldn't figure it out.
I'm not going to deny or give that credit.
But anyway, no, I am very blessed to be a part of the station and have the folks that come in and do wonderful shows and not only entertaining but very informative shows. Mm-hmm. And I think you'd find it interesting at the least to join us at 11 o'clock on Fridays and meditate with America's Web Radio. and
Hey,
it's extraordinary. So
I think it's great, and everyone could use a little bit of meditation. I'm not gonna lie, I think it's a good thing. So, but well, let me get back to this. So before we went to the break, we talked about Sig Sauer and Ruger and Keltec and Smith and Wesson, Taurus, who are all joining the fight against COVID-19, against Corona, against Wuhan, against the China virus. They're all joining this fight, and they're making PPE, personal protection equipment, and they're donating it to all over different states and to different fire departments and EMTs and to hospitals and police departments. It's an amazing thing. And while I'm at it, let me put a shout out to Harold Dennis, who was a candidate for DeKalb County Sheriff. He himself went and donated some masks, N95 masks, to the Chamblee Police Department. So there are good people out there, folks, and there are good companies out there. And despite what the Democrats will tell you about the gun companies, there are some good companies out there.
And
remember, folks, when the going gets tough, Americans get going. And that's the same for American companies like Taurus, Keltec, Smith & Wesson, and Ruger, Sig Sauer. Again, folks, if you're going to make a purchase in the gun industry or some type of purchase, maybe go visit one of those companies or buy from one of those companies, because they're really stepping up. So I want to get to something here. So these companies like Smith & Wesson are making masks, and they're making the N95 mask. Now look, I wish I could take credit for this, but I cannot. But we have a listener. I have a listener who's an avid listener to On Point with Victor, and he's also happens to be a dear friend of mine. But he's a listener from Tucker, Georgia, and he gave me the best idea. And in fact, I believe he's already sent an email to Smith & Wesson, already contacted. I believe he made a phone call into Smith & Wesson, but he gave them the best idea. And I want all you gun manufacturers out there, I want to implore you and beg you, please take this advice that I'm about to give you, which I got from the listener from Tucker, Georgia, who may be calling in shortly. When you deliver these N95 masks that you've made, you need to rename them and retag them. On these masks, they need to say, brand new AR95 assault mask. I mean, that is brilliant. You need to call it the AR95 mask. And every person out there who gets to wear this mask needs to know that it came from a gun manufacturer. And anybody out there, it would just be great to have a mask. I would buy one in a heartbeat that says AR95 mask, or putting an assault to COVID-19. I mean, it's endless advertising that we could have, and endless fun we could have with this. But because of the way the Democrats and the media treat gun manufacturers, and the way they treat Second Amendment lovers, the way they treat us NRA members, the way they treat anyone, even if you don't own a gun but you support the Second Amendment, they're gonna just come after you as well. And the way they treat us, and the way they make fun, and then the way they go after AR-15s and they call it an assault rifle. Folks, AR does not stand for assault rifle, but because the media does this, right back at them. And what better way than to come from a gun manufacturer who's making a PPE mask? If they're making the N95 mask, call it the AR95 mask. I'm even saying let's put assault mask on there. Assaulting COVID-19. Taking the fight to COVID-19. This would be a great marketing scheme. And in fact, we're going to go to the phones right now because I believe we have maybe the caller from Tucker, Georgia.
Hey, Victor, how you doing?
Larry.
Yes.
So folks, on the phone with us right now is Larry Gauze. And Larry, you're the one that came up with this great idea. So why don't you explain it exactly and tell me what you have done to try and get this message to the gun manufacturers.
Well, when I read the article, and I said, this is great, it made me laugh. I said, how can we make this, if they're going to step up to the plate? So I contacted Smith & Wesson, and I said, to kind of throw it back in the left's face, I said, we need to name this mask the AR N95 PPM, and that's what the model should say on the packaging or whatever.
Have a model number.
And I said Smith & Wesson could even do an advertisement and call it the Smith & Wesson AR N95 PPM. Smith & Wesson providing personal protection since 1856, which is when they were founded. And so I contacted them. I didn't get to speak to anyone on the phone, but I got to actually, I talked to someone on the phone who worked for the president or whatever. So he said, send the contact information. So I sent it via email to her, the private email address they gave me, and they sent back that they were forwarding it up to their president, chief of staff, and everything else. And it just made me laugh. I sent a second email that they have, you actually have a 6-month window, I believe, marketing-wise, that you could get people to purchase these masks before things kind of reside with the confusion going on with the coronavirus.
Right.
And I said, so you take that 6-month window, and I said, those on the left are going to get mad that you called this the AR N95, and those on the right are going to buy the mask because it drives those on the left nuts. I go, win-win. So hopefully they'll do something with it, but I just thought when you think of Smith & Wesson, you immediately think of guns. If they were making a mask and had Smith & Wesson on it, it would just drive the left nuts.
Well,
and it made me laugh.
You know what, Larry? I mentioned before in the first hour that we must maintain a sense of humor in all this. We should in any crisis. But Larry, I think what you're onto something here that's not just a win-win. It's a win-win-win-win-win because it puts out a great message, and it plays to the fact of the hysteria that the liberals and the Democrats and the media has against guns. And if they're going to lie about assault weapons and just create this fake false narrative that there is such a thing as an assault rifle, because that's not what AR stands for, but we won't even get into that. But it's a chance for the gun manufacturers to push back. And they're not really pushing back in a bad way. They're pushing back with some humor, because there's a need for these masks, and they're stepping up to the plate and they're creating these masks. They've turned their gun manufacturers into a mask manufacturer. And why not? If they're going through at their expense, at their cost, keeping their people employed by allowing them to make these masks, then they should brand them. Larry, and what I mean by brand that is just like you said, put the model number AR N95 and have that be the model number. And I would go a little further, Larry, and I would put taking the assault or putting the assault on COVID-19, because the Democrats love to accuse anyone with a rifle. They accuse you of having an assault rifle. So let's just have fun. Let's go the whole distance. Let's call it the AR-N95. Call it the assault mask, taking the fight to Corona. What do you think, Larry? I think they could have fun with that.
I think they have fun. I like the PPN just because it's an abbreviation. When you look at guns, it's similar to how guns are already modeled now. Mm-hmm. And so it just keeps it by initials or anything else. But I just wanted to have it. Made me laugh, and I think if I saw it in a store, I would laugh and buy it. It'd be one of those quick purchases or whatever, and I'd buy it from them. I think you have a lot of people who support the Second Amendment, NRA members or anything else, that are going to absolutely throw the support. It's no different like you see how the MyPillow company has just shot up with them making masks, and people they were getting critiqued on the left, and the people on the right, it's like I'm going to support you if you're going to do this and you're going to make this many masks for our country. Then I'm going to support you. And I think the gun manufacturers see the same thing, that people are going to buy that, as well as we've already seen a mass influx of purchases on firearms. People want to provide protection during this chaos.
Absolutely, and that's you're right, Larry. It would be a great way even to raise money. So, and I know that Smith & Wesson and Sig Sauer, they're donating a lot of these. So maybe some of these hospitals or any first responder group, this is a way they could raise money by selling some of these masks. Because just like you said, I would buy one just so I could tick off my anti-gun neighbor, or maybe you have an anti-gun neighbor, or maybe you live with. Look, I play soccer with a bunch of Democrats. I would wear that mask in a heartbeat. There are two masks that I would wear. One would be the AR N95 PPE mask, and I would also wear a MAGA mask. So, go ahead, Larry.
Yeah, well, like I say, even the friends on the left, when I mentioned the comment that this is what I had, they couldn't help but laugh because it is funny.
Yeah, it is.
So have fun with it if it makes you laugh. Mm-hmm. They're like, oh, come on. But they did think it was funny. So that was how it came for me.
We need to have some laughter. Like I said before, we really do. Well, I love it, Larry. I think it's a great idea. I really do. And it's great for these companies to step up.
It's good talking to you.
So, hey, Larry, before you got a second?
Sure.
Let me ask you something real quick. Because you're a Navy veteran.
Okay.
Tell me how you feel and how you felt when the Blue Angels and Thunderbirds, for the first time ever, flew together over Atlanta, Georgia this weekend.
Oh, I loved it. My friends, and it was I think what was more exciting for me on this is that all my neighbors and friends of mine and everything else, they were excited to go see it. And they had pride in the country again, because I haven't seen that in a while, where people are like, oh, you know, and they were excited to see it. And that did my heart good, is seeing the people wanting to go see something like that provided by the military. And they had pride in their country again, and that was really nice. And so when they went by us, we went to Premier Mall, I think, or whatever on it. And my friends were like, you know, which was which? And then maybe the Navy guy go, well, the one with the tighter, the Navy was the one with the tighter formation. So, couldn't help on that one. But it just the pleasure I had was how many people really took to the streets and went out to see that because they wanted to see it and they had pride. I love that.
I gotta tell you, Larry, it's funny that you mentioned that. So we did our motorcycle ride, and we were all standing watching, and there were people everywhere. And we had a gentleman come up. So 3 of us were standing kind of on our own and watching. One was a buddy of mine who's a Navy veteran, and then me, whose family's Navy and Marines, and then my buddy whose family is an Army, and he himself was in a ROTC. And we're standing there, and we had a gentleman walked up to us. And look, we do it instinctively, at least myself. I'll stand at attention whenever in the presence of military, whether it's people or the flyover. And my friends said doing the same. And so this gentleman walks up, and he goes, hey, look, he goes, would I be out of line in thanking you guys for your service? And we kind of looked to see if we were wearing anything special. And it was funny because this guy ended up being an Air Force guy. So, of course, the comments from the Navy veteran versus the Air Force veteran, I mean, they just start flying. And it's fun to do, and I love hearing it because it's always fun to put an Army guy, a Navy guy, a Marine guy, and an Air Force guy in a room and just see who can make the most jokes. And, Larry, I bet you have a few.
I had a few. I always said one, and we always would throw the Coast Guard in there as well.
And the Coast Guard, right.
And it's like if people said, you know, yeah, because I had friends who were in Coast Guard when I was going to XO school and everything else, and they were in the same course with us. Mm-hmm. And they said, you know, you should have gone Coast Guard. And I said, I would, but I wasn't tall enough. What do you mean you're not tall enough? I'm like, well, you got to be over 6 feet, so when when you get in trouble, you can just walk ashore. Anyways, that's my last joke. Listen, have a good show.
Great.
Enjoyed it, and thank you.
Thanks, Larry. I appreciate it.
Right.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye. All right, folks. So that's it's always fun to hear from listeners who have great ideas like that, and I just love it. So if hopefully Smith and Wesson and Sig Sauer will take our advice. They will take Larry's advice. I got to give Larry credit. So hopefully they'll take his advice, and they will model their mask, and they'll model them AR N95 mask, and hopefully they'll do that, and we can have fun with it. And I would be the first to buy one. So if it does happen and you see people out there, make sure you purchase one of the AR N95 masks from Smith and Wesson. So it would be great if you could. It would be just awesome. So we may have another phone call here coming in. I think we might. So that's okay. Or maybe Mark, if you're out there, just call back. I think it's live radio. It happens. Folks, it's sometimes when you're doing a live show, phone calls can we're here at America's Web Radio. We it's hard sometimes to do the shows and screen calls and do all those things. So bear with us. But folks, again, if you see an AR N95 mask out there, make sure you buy it. So, all right, we've got a call coming in from New York. You there, Mark?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Oh, I got you, Mark. Got you loud and clear. So, Mark, I did you hear the Larry's suggestion there, caller from Tucker, Georgia, who suggested that Sig Sauer and Smith & Wesson, the mask that they're donating, they're making masks. If they donate them, they need to put a model number on there, AR N95.
Well, yeah. See, in New York, we're just going to use the slingshot. So we're going to have a picture of Goliath on it.
Well, now, that might be something, a little business venture for you, Mark, because in New York, as you alluded to, you're not allowed to protect yourself using the Second Amendment. So you might have to get you can't even have plastic straws to fire spitballs.
Well, no, but we can have plastic gloves.
Oh, well, you can have plastic gloves and plastic face masks.
Now, can you make a glove into a straw? Is that still legal?
I doubt it.
I can drink 5 drinks at one time if I could figure it out.
You know what? If it was going to be figured out, it would probably be the state of Texas. which Legendary Dave is from. So
yeah, but occasional Cortex would put a kibosh on that anyway. So.
She would in New York. That's why it's got to come from a state like Texas. So
unless we could fool her, we could make the glove green.
Yeah.
And do you think it's part of the new Green Deal?
You know, you're onto something. If we made plastic straws, would New York allow them? I mean, green plastic straws.
If they were green, she might think it's part of the Green New Deal.
So if we introduce green plastic straws and we call them recycled green straws, you think we could get them sold in New York?
We just put GND on it. She'd know what that meant.
Oh, man, Mark, here we go again, solving the world's problems.
Well, see, I'm waiting for the New York bailout.
Oh my gosh, Mark.
From Cuomo's incompetency and Schumer's embarrassment, and Gillibrand. Oh, wait a second, that's right. She's the Me Too movement. Except when it's Joe Biden, it's me, not me.
So
do we have a hashtag that says the Me Too, not Me Too group?
We may have to have that, Mark. We may have to have that. You know, Legendary Dave just pointed out to me that maybe if we called it a test kit, tell AOC that that it's a test kit. Maybe we can get it passed that way. No, Mark, you're right. You know, I mentioned before, Mark, and look, I got to ask you. You're in New York, and you're having to deal with Cuomo, and why on earth should any New Yorker listen to Cuomo with his record?
He's had such great. He's had such a great economic growth impact in New York, from his $90 million factory bust from Sora LED Company, from the giant Buffalo Billion revitalization plan in upstate New York. He spent $750 million on, and of course now he's going to turn to Trump and he's going to say, "Hey, I need some more money. I'm out of money." Well, all of his cronies and his pay-for-play guys all went to jail. And now he needs his money to bail out. Now, how is it? Here's a question for you, because you're a very smart guy, and I admire you.
I try.
How is it that a state like Florida that doesn't have an income tax is doing okay, and New York that has almost an 8 or 9% income tax, depending on where you are, has still a zero balance in their budget, and in fact a $26 billion deficit? As Cuomo said in his own words during his press conference, he doesn't have two nickels to rub together.
Mark, let me tell you, the state of New York is the highest taxed state in the union, next to California. And I actually think they may be more taxed than California even is. And yet your state is one of the poorest run states out there. That state is in such economic peril. And Mark, your state, as you alluded to, was in economic peril before the virus hit. And I'm afraid that people like Cuomo and the New Jersey guy and the Maine guy, the Michigan guy, they're using this crisis now as a way to try and get a bargain for a federal bailout.
Oh no, not that they're going to try. Honestly, with the Congress, if they ever get back in session,
right? Okay,
because obviously, you know, of all the things in high school that I thought I'd need to know, I didn't think staying away from cooties was one of them, but apparently the Congress has learned that lesson.
Little did
but they
you
don't
know.
have to go back to work.
Little did you know in kindergarten you were training for this by running away from cooties.
Yep. I mean, how is it that Congress and the Senate took off? Our truckers didn't take off. Our doctors and nurses didn't take off.
And they're getting paid 100% of their salary. They didn't take a pay cut. They didn't donate part of their pay. The only man in Washington who's donating the 100% or 99.9% of their paycheck is Donald J. Trump.
And I got to tell you, I saw a little piece of what Schumer said this morning, and he's going to make Joe Biden look like the sane guy in the room.
Yeah.
And that's the real serious problem.
Yeah.
Gillibrand with her big mouth, I'm not hearing much out of it now. All I'm hearing is,
right.
I don't hear nothing.
Oh, you're not going to hear anything. And you know, Mark, you mentioned also, you know, since you mentioned how Florida's doing, you know, I can give you, if you look at Florida, a gun, Second Amendment respected state with no state income tax. and they are not only weathering this storm better, but their fiscal policy is way better than New York.
Oh, and their COVID policy was way better.
And their
than New
COVID
York.
policy. And then you look at Texas, also a gun and Second Amendment respecting state that also had a different response to COVID than New York, and also has no state income tax. There are several. Tennessee's another one. There are several states. So there is something to be said, Mark. But what's the common denominator there? Florida, Republican run, or I should say conservatively run, and Tennessee also, and Texas also. So when you look at New York, and we're watching the Democrats run it into the ground year after year after year, what is it, Mark, that convinces New Yorkers to continue to vote for these idiots year after year
Because
after
if
year?
you can sing the blues, you're a blue state, and you can collect money for doing nothing. When you make it more important for people to collect unemployment and get all these grants than to go out and get a job, that's your problem. Look at every Democratic-run city in this country, except for maybe one or two of them. They're all destitute and destroyed.
Yeah.
And yet the people vote for them the same every year, and I don't understand that.
Every year. It's amazing to me, Mark. It really is. And to bring it back to your state, I am just amazed that, New York has you've got crime, you've got shootings, not to the level of Chicago, but Chicago is another state that's like your city in New York City.
Yeah, but Chicago has the strictest gun laws on the planet in the United States, yet they have the most gun violence. Has anyone understood yet?
Well,
Not one of these morons who we vote in every time does understand that criminals do not pay attention to your laws. Nobody goes to the criminal procedure law and says, "Oh my God, it's a violation, it's a felony. I shouldn't have my gun with me."
Mark, how many people have been in your courtroom or in the courtroom with you that was a criminal that followed the law?
Well, that's a Joe Biden question. Hamada. Joe Biden would answer that as, "Oh, let's ride bikes." But the point being is they don't follow the law. So you can put in 3 million different statutes about guns, and you are not going to get one criminal who has a gun to follow that statute.
Absolutely. You find me a criminal that goes through the law or the laws on the books, however you want to put it, but show me a criminal that abides by the laws when he goes out and gets his gun. It doesn't happen. And when a criminal goes to commit a crime, do you think that sign on just about every door in New York that says "No guns here, we're a gun-free zone"? Do you think that stops the criminal?
Well, obviously the answer to that in Chicago, New York, California is
Detroit.
0. No, it's a zero-sum game. See, but we have to understand something. If they don't keep putting laws on the books that are stupid, they're pretty much out of jobs.
Mark, let's because New York and to me in Chicago, they have the same ilk running them. And you are right. Chicago has the most stringent gun laws on the book, and New York is not far behind. Let me point this out. In a midst of a lockdown, now, understand, Chicago is still locked down. They are the mayor in Chicago and the governor behind her they're threatening to arrest people and pull them out of their homes if they have a dinner party.
Oh, well, wait, I got a better one for you, what they're doing in New York. New York subways, because of the lack of people going and using the subways, have been turned into railway bed cars for the homeless.
Oh, wow. I saw
But the
that.
cops have not been in the subway. So crime, although it's probably 90% less people, the crime rate is up because the cops aren't going into the subways.
And no one can protect
themselves. Now, what are the cops
themselves.
doing? Okay? There's only about 10 or 11% of the cops that are out now because of COVID. But what are the cops doing? What are they focusing on? You know what Comrade de Blasio has them focusing on? Breaking up people who are in gatherings because of the COVID-19, and they're going after the people who they can fine $1,000 for $500 for these little violations. Because if they went into the subways and they tossed the people off and gave them citations, guess what? The homeless people don't pay citations.
Absolutely not. Mark, hold the thought right there. We're going to go to a break, and we'll be right back. We'll be right back with Mark from New York. Stay tuned.
The Docs for Patient Care Foundation is your way to join the fight and become a member of an organization created by doctors for patients dedicated to fighting for your healthcare freedom and preserving the doctor-patient relationship. Get a pen and paper. Write down www.docsforpatientcarefoundation.org. That's www.docsforpatientcarefoundation.org. Go to our site and please make a generous tax-deductible donation and join the fight today. Thank you.
When someone gives an answer, it is either in response to a question or a command to respond. And those who might be into grammar would either term it a noun or a verb. In mathematics, an answer is the solution to a problem, and problems are plentiful. Who do you turn to for answers? The Lord is near to all who call on him, said the psalmist. And God invites you, as he says, call to me, and I will answer you and tell you great and unsearchable things that you don't know. Our problem is that we search for answers in all the wrong places. We would do well to remember that God cares and he hears our hurts. To prove it, he said, I'll answer while you're still speaking and I will hear. What problem do you have today? What answer do you seek? Who do you turn to for solutions? God has the answers. He is the answer. This is John Bryan bringing you today's key word.
Hello, I'm Dr. Mike Karuchak. Have you ever wondered what doctors talk about amongst themselves? If you do, join us on the Doctor's Lounge and hear the doctors' conversations amongst themselves. Join me and my co-host, Dr. Hal Schertz, every Thursday morning, 8 to 9 a.m.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
And we're back here on Locked and Loaded. And folks, don't forget, check out AmericasWebRadio.com and look at all the shows coming up. We're the only station that's got the Kung Fu Master on Fridays, and we've got Dr. Nicole Sapphire coming up, I believe, David, tomorrow.
Yes, you gave me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mark, hold on right there, Mark.
Yes, sir. And we also have tomorrow, it's going to be very interesting as a former... Not farmer, but former
Not
federal agent. He was with Homeland Security, and he has top-level security and all of this, is going to start investigating the mistreatment of General Flynn. And what his brothers in the FBI did, they should all be lined up against the wall. This is just...
I'm going to have to ask Mark about that.
It was beyond belief what our FBI did to a general, and there's no excuse for it. I believe Flynn's a lieutenant general, 3-star.
I believe so.
And it's just absolutely absurd. And Sandy asked me. We talked several weeks ago about this and said, would you mind if I did oh, no, I wouldn't mind at all.
Not at all.
Let's get after him.
I think it'll be great.
Growing up, both of us, growing up as little boys, everybody, I remember a show, there was a show called I Led 3 Lives, and this guy was an undercover FBI agent. And then we had the FBI with Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. on. I bet you can't even say that in Spanish,
I can't.
But
I'm
anyway,
not even gonna try.
but we had, and our heroes were the FBI.
Yeah.
And what these lousy bastards have done to tarnish the reputation of
a guy who spent many, many years of his life defending this country.
Right. And so anyway, Sandy Bostic, our agent in charge. Then we have Dr. Nicole Sapphire from Fox News is going to be on Thursday. Folks,
It's live radio. It happens. But yeah, stay tuned for those, folks, and look for all those shows because they're really awesome, and it's going to be a great interview tomorrow with Dr. Sapphire, Thursday with Dr. Sapphire. So stay tuned. But I do want to get back. Mark, I was mentioning about Chicago. So listen to this. So with the lockdown.
Well, did you see Mayor Lightfoot?
Oh, exactly, Mark. Absolutely. Now here's the thing, Mark. Because I want you to get into that a little bit, but before you do, let me point this out. So even in the midst of a lockdown, this past weekend, 11 children in Chicago were wounded by gunfire. At least 26 people were shot across the city.
Yeah, but were they shot from indoors or outside?
Yeah, see, between the afternoon of Friday and early Monday, you had over 26 people shot, 11 children wounded, and 4 people dead. That is in Chicago, even while they are forcing. And now look, Mark, do you think they're going after these criminals who are shooting people in Chicago? No, they're going after people in their homes trying to have a dinner party. So, Mark, you brought up Mayor what is her name?
Mayor Lori Lightfoot.
Lightfoot. Mark, do you want to tell the listeners what this dimwit of a mayor is doing to her city?
During the oppressive lockdown that she has been enforcing and literally arresting people, the First Amendment, Second Amendment, they're all out the window. She's been arresting people for defying the COVID lockdown, yet she takes off and goes and gets a haircut. They're hitting people with $500 fines for not staying home, and she takes off and goes to her beautician. And no one finds this to be an amazing, overburdensome abuse of power. Does anyone else see this as an abuse of power?
Mark, you've heard me say it before, and the listeners have too. Only the peasant, only we the peasant, we the people, will burden the absurd policies of the politicians. The elitist politicians will never suffer or bear the burden.
Wait, you have to listen to this. I just came across this now, a quote from her. Okay?
Oh, boy.
So she says the reason she did this is, the woman who cut my hair, and I quote, the woman who cut my hair had a mask and gloves on, so I am practicing what I am preaching.
No.
Close quote.
But Mark, if you're in Chicago and you try and go do what she did, she'll arrest you. She'll have you arrested.
So here's the point. What makes her more responsible than the citizens that she oversees?
Or what makes her more important? She thinks, because she's on TV and she thinks the country gives a you-know-what about her, that she needs to look good. So her elitist...
And let me just tell you something. There's nothing that a hairstylist could do to make this lady look good. I'm sorry.
I wasn't going to say it, Mark, but hey,
we're from New York. I call it as I see it.
You New Yorkers, and they wonder why Trump fights back.
If I was her, I'd be going to my plastic surgeon, but that's a whole new story.
That's a whole nother, and of course she would deem it necessary if she wanted to do that.
But she needs to figure out, you cannot tell the people. What does that usually say? Do as I say, not as I do.
Uh-huh.
That doesn't apply in government.
Oh, the government is do as I demand you do, but not as I will do.
As you always point out on your show, we got to go back to the basics again. Mm-hmm. The government derives its power from the people, not the people from the government.
Absolutely.
And you say that time and time again, and I'm hoping someday, Victor, Victor Armendariz, that the public will get a hold of this and go, ding, light bulb.
Well, I'm hoping, Mark, that one good thing that may hopefully come out of this coronavirus, Wuhan virus, I hope something that comes out, or that people start to wake up and they start pushing back against the tyrannical Democrats, because that's what they are.
By the way, I just took out a tape measure and measured arm length, and it's certainly not 6 feet long.
Yeah, well.
So is she going to pay the $500 fine?
I'd like to see her pay the fine, and I'd like to see her. I would like to see her live under the ridiculousness that she's forcing the rest of the Chicagoans to live under. But of course, she'll never do that, Mark. Mark, what's the lady in Chicago? This mayor, and I may be nice by calling her a lady. She is basically using the virus to practice fascism, and I mean this is the very thing that I'm hoping, like you said too, Mark, that maybe some Democrats who lean a little independent, maybe they will wake up and they will start to see that voting for these Democrats is not in their best interest. Now, Mark, maybe that doesn't mean they have to go vote for every Republican they see, but maybe they vote for a libertarian, maybe they vote for an independent, or maybe they just stay home. But you can't keep voting for these Democrats.
Well,
and the same goes for
the other thing that I don't know if you addressed it earlier in your other show, but here's my biggest concern right now. This is an ideal time for the Democrats to keep destroying the economy. Because if this economy opens up again, the way I think it will, and it is going to come out like a freight train. I see it happening now. I see the people are raring to go. This economy is going to pick up better than it was before. And if Trump keeps to his word, and if Congress, the bunch of weenies that they are, and if the Senate, the bunch of weenies that they are, don't pull back, they will bring back the manufacturing to the United States, and this economy will take off and control everything.
You know what, Mark? You know, you like to say sometimes that, and I've said it too, but I think you're the one that led with this before about how we could probably solve the problems if you and I got together in a room and they would actually listen to us. And you hit on a point there, Mark. You know, one of the best ways, and now would be the time to do it, or maybe just after President Trump is reelected. Now would be a great time to scrap the federal tax system and move to a consumption tax. You want to bring manufacturing back here in the most natural way. You wouldn't need any tariffs to do it. You wouldn't need any crazy laws to do it. If you just make the United States the tax haven of the world, manufacturing will stream back here like we've never seen it.
Yep. And he understands that. It's just trying to get the Republicans and the Democrats to understand, like you keep calling them the establishment.
Yeah.
They're the Antichrist establishment.
You may be right.
You know, they are, you said the establishment swims together. It doesn't matter the party.
Yes.
They're afraid of him because he's going to fix everything. And if they fix everything, then the people don't rely on government.
Well,
and that scares the living bejesus out of the government.
Well, one of the best things President Trump has done is really begin to expose the swamp that is Washington. I mean, it really is this playground that is Washington, D.C., where when I talk about the establishment swims together, that's Democrats and Republicans establishments, they will swim together. And you're right, Mark, they hate Trump. And I've said it before, Mark, when the Democrat establishment hates the president and the Republican establishment hates the president, you know you've got the right guy. Yeah, because you know what? They don't understand in Washington that the people want something more than promises. Well, they want action and they want results. Well, you know, and in government, you've never had to do that. In private business, you've always had to do that. In the private industry, results matter, and you have to answer to a board of directors, or you answer to the consumer. Mark, who does the government answer to? They're supposed to answer to we the people, but that hasn't been happening. Nope. They will never answer to the people unless you got a guy like Trump in there. Right. And Donald Trump is the antithesis of let's make it work. Let's not talk about making it work. Oh, you are so right, Mark. You know, Donald Trump truly does not have the word can't or cannot or will not. That's not in his vocabulary. No, he doesn't take that as an answer. And people are upset because these government officials, oh my God, they're fired. They're this. In private practice, if you don't perform, you get fired. You don't get promoted like in government. Well, you're absolutely right, Mark. All right, Mark, we got to leave it there. Thanks so much for calling in. Folks, this has been great. Have a great weekend, Victor. Everybody stay safe. Thank you so much, Mark. And, folks, this has been Locked and Loaded with Roger B. Tune in next week. Roger B. will be back. Have a great day, folks.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
Get your pen and paper ready. If there's a move in your near future, I'm here to tell you that the folks I used and now recommend is Around Town Movers. Timothy and the guys